Have you ever watched a video that made you question everything you thought you knew about the supernatural? What I'm about to show you is not just another fake ghost compilation or cheap jump scare montage. This is documentation of something that defies logical explanation, captured by ordinary people who never expected their lives to be forever changed by what their cameras recorded. I need to warn you before we go any further. The footage you're about to see has been verified by multiple independent sources, analyzed by paranormal investigators, and examined by skeptics who walked away believers. Some viewers have reported feeling an overwhelming sense of dread while watching. Others claim they've experienced unexplained phenomena in their own homes after viewing this content. If you're easily disturbed or suffer from anxiety, you might want to click away now. But for those brave enough to continue, prepare yourself for something that will challenge your understanding of reality itself. The story begins in a small town in rural Pennsylvania, where the Morrison family thought they were getting the deal of a lifetime. A Victorian-era house built in 1887 was being sold for a fraction of its market value. The real estate agent was unusually eager to close the deal, barely mentioning the property's history. What the Morrisons didn't know was that they were about to become part of a legacy of terror that had claimed 7 previous families over the past century. Sarah Morrison, a mother of 2 young children, decided to document their move with a simple handheld camera. She wanted to capture memories of their fresh start, their dream home, their new beginning. Instead, she captured something far more sinister. The first signs were subtle. In the initial footage, you can see shadows moving in rooms where no one should be. At first glance, they look like tricks of light, natural explanations that any rational person would accept. But when you slow down the playback, enhance the contrast, and really examine what's happening, the movements become deliberate, purposeful, almost intelligent. On their 3rd night in the house, Sarah's camera picked up something that still sends chills down my spine. While filming her children playing in the living room, a figure appears in the reflection of the window behind them. Not a shadow, not a trick of light, but a clear, distinct human silhouette. The terrifying part? When Sarah turns the camera toward that exact spot, nothing is there. The figure only exists in the reflection. But that was just the beginning. As days passed, the activity escalated. Doors began opening and closing on their own, always just outside the camera's direct view. The children started talking about their new friend, a sad lady who visits them at night. When pressed for details, both kids, independently and without consultation, described the same woman down to the smallest details. A woman who died in that house over 60 years ago. The footage becomes increasingly disturbing as we witness the family's growing terror. Objects move across rooms with no explanation. The temperature drops so dramatically that their breath becomes visible on camera. And then there's the audio. When you isolate the sound and remove the family's voices, you can hear whispers, sometimes clear enough to make out words. Words that seem to respond directly to conversations happening in real time. The most bone-chilling moment occurs on night 17 of their documentation. Sarah is filming herself in the master bedroom, discussing their plans to contact a paranormal investigator. Mid-sentence, her expression changes. Her eyes widen with pure terror as she stares at something behind the camera. She slowly turns the lens around, and what we see next has been analyzed by experts who confirm it's not a result of digital manipulation or camera malfunction. A full-bodied apparition stands at the foot of the bed. Not transparent, not ethereal, but solid and present. The figure appears to be an elderly woman in a nightgown, her face contorted with anguish. For exactly 7 seconds, she stares directly into the camera with eyes that seem to look straight through the screen and into your soul. Then she simply vanishes, leaving behind only the sound of Sarah's horrified breathing. But the entity wasn't finished with the Morrison family. The activity became violent. Scratches appeared on walls overnight, forming words that seemed to be warnings or threats. Kitchen cabinets would slam shut with such force that dishes shattered inside them. The children began experiencing night terrors, screaming about the sad lady who was no longer sad but angry. Very angry. The final piece of footage is the most disturbing. Sarah had set up the camera to record overnight, hoping to capture evidence of the nocturnal disturbances. What she recorded instead was footage of herself sleepwalking, something she had never done before in her life. But this wasn't ordinary sleepwalking. The camera shows Sarah moving through the house with purpose, her eyes open but vacant, speaking in a voice that isn't her own. Audio analysis reveals she's speaking in a dialect consistent with late 19th century English, using phrases and pronunciations that Sarah couldn't possibly know. She's having conversations with someone who isn't there, responding to questions no one can hear, agreeing to things she would never consent to while conscious. The most terrifying moment comes when sleepwalking Sarah approaches the camera directly. She stares into the lens with eyes that seem ancient, filled with knowledge that doesn't belong to her. When she speaks, her voice is layered, as if multiple people are talking through her simultaneously. The words she says next have been verified by historians as an exact quote from the diary of Margaret Whitmore, the woman who died in that house in 1962, the woman whose apparition appeared earlier in the footage. 3 days after recording that final video, the Morrison family fled. They left everything behind, abandoning their dream home and never returning. The house was eventually demolished, but not before other investigators attempted to document the phenomena. Every single person who spent a night in that house reported similar experiences. Every recording session captured unexplainable activity. And every person who tried to debunk the footage walked away convinced that something genuinely supernatural had occurred. What makes this case particularly compelling is the consistency of the evidence across multiple witnesses and recording devices. Different cameras, different people, same phenomena. The audio anomalies have been analyzed by sound engineers who confirm they cannot be replicated through conventional means. The visual evidence has been examined by video experts who found no signs of manipulation or fraud. Perhaps most unsettling of all, several viewers who watched the complete footage have reported experiencing paranormal activity in their own homes afterward. They described the same figure the Morrison family encountered, the same overwhelming sense of dread, the same feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. Some paranormal researchers theorize that certain traumatic events can imprint themselves onto physical locations, creating recordings of intense emotional energy that play back under specific conditions. Others believe that some entities can attach themselves to people who witness their manifestations, following them beyond the boundaries of their earthly prison. Whatever the explanation, one thing remains certain. The Morrison family captured something that shouldn't exist according to our understanding of reality. Something that challenges everything we think we know about life, death, and what might exist in the spaces between. As you finish watching this, pay attention to your surroundings. Notice if the temperature feels different, if shadows seem longer, if you suddenly feel like you're not alone. Because according to some who viewed this footage, the experience doesn't end when the video stops playing. The question isn't whether ghosts exist. After seeing what the Morrison family documented, the question becomes, are you brave enough to accept that they do? And more importantly, are you prepared for what that acceptance might invite into your own life? Sweet dreams.